live. All right, yes, our brothers and sisters, how are all of you guys doing? It is time for our Fly Nubian Queens Roundtable, and we have a special guest by the name of Brother Muhammad. He is out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and he has Fly Nubian Queens Roundtable, the 411 on some great information regarding a beauty supply store owner who punched a Black woman in her face, and yet we still line up to spend money with him. We're going to discuss that today, brothers and sisters, because that is a problem. Yes. So let the guests all introduce themselves to one another, and let's go ahead and get started from there. Everyone introduce yourself.
Hello,
let's start with Jade. How about that? Let's start with Jade.
All right. Okay. Peace and love, peace and Black power, everyone. My name is Jade Arundel. I'm an unapologetically Black anti-racism trainer, community organizer, and educator. And in my spare time, I like shutting down parasitic merchants from the Black community that abuse our people. And I'm here in love and support today for the cause.
Awesome. My name is Vicki Dillard, and I'm a very proud contributor on FlyNubianQueenTV.com through the weekdays. And I am a commentator, of course, as well as a speaker and activist. So pleased to be here with you all.
Hello, I'm Student Minister Alvin Muhammad. I'm a local business owner here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Superior Outdoor Services is the name of my company. Community activist, student minister, and just a servant of God. And I'm just here to inform the community as to what we are dealing with here in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
It was me she couldn't hear. I had it on. Is it okay if I start with Brother Muhammad just for a moment? Because I want him to give us a detailed description of what is going on in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Some of our viewers may remember this incident, Brother Muhammad, but you know, and I hate to say it this way, but there are often times in our community, we're mad about something today, and then next week we forget about it. Right?
Right?
So can you please just give us some insight into what happened and where we are at right now?
Well, yes, ma'am. About 6 months ago, April Harding was shopping at June's. Actually, it was called Anna and June's Beauty Supply. They changed the name to QDL after the incident happened because of the national attention that it was getting. But it was Anna and June's Beauty Supply. She was in there shopping with her children, and her child picked up a keychain. Mr. June yelled at her. She took the keychain, threw it on the ground, walked out the store. At that time, June followed her out the store, confronted her, and eventually grabbed and punched her in the mouth in front of her. Again, this is not the first time that Mr. June has done this. He has done this with at least three other women. So this was on this particular situation. It was videotaped, but we shared the video. It went national, and we have been boycotting June's Beauty Supply ever since.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, Brother Muhammad, I believe that's the same video that I saw. It looked like it was in the summer, maybe a little bit before that time, where the Black men came out in protest to represent the Black women, correct?
Absolutely.
What happened with that incident?
Well, unfortunately, we always hear, particularly Black men, that we don't, as men, stand up for our sisters. But on this particular situation and throughout this protest, we have encountered many of our sisters who really don't appreciate that. Those who do support our boycott don't support Mr. June, but unfortunately, we have a segment of our community that continue to support a man that abuses women in our community.
It's interesting we're having this conversation because you're in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yes, ma'am.
And this incident happened. Jade Arundel, brothers and sisters, y'all know who Jade is. I don't have to tell you guys who this powerful sister is. But Jade Arundel experienced a case, if not similar, definitely worse. And I hate to put, better or worse on something, but she had a case where she was involved with too, out of a supply store or nail salon, something like that in Brooklyn. Jay, tell the people about that.
Yeah, unfortunately, on August the 3rd, 2018, 3 Black women, including one, were sexually assaulted by at least 8 nail salon workers here in Brooklyn, New York, at the Apple Nail Salon. They were assaulted with broomsticks. Acetone was thrown in their face, and also there was a razor involved in the attack. And so basically, those perpetrators have not yet been brought to justice. And after the nail salon attack, you know, there were boycotts. And then when the shop reopened, they were continuing to support the salon, although we were giving out information, we were in the community, but there seemed to be a breakdown in empathy. There seemed to be a breakdown in us being and getting on code and supporting, you know, outing or dismissing this violent establishment and holding those people accountable.
All right, so then let me say this, because I'm hearing 2 things, and I watched both of them. And in this instance, we had Black women, I'm going to say brutalized, because that's what it looked like to me in Brooklyn, right? And right, and
right.
In Tulsa, Oklahoma, we had a Black woman that was brutally assaulted. She was punched in her mouth. But something psychological is happening here, where we all saw the same thing, and Black women are still spending their money there. What you say, Vicky? What you say?
Well, it's conditioning. It's conditioning and it's programming. And after being in such an oppressive system for 464 years, different types of oppression, from the chattel slavery to sharecropping, Black codes, Jim Crow, new Jim Crow, we find ourselves in the situation where we have been conditioned to hate each other. We have been conditioned to praise and to patronize our open oppressors. And I think that we're seeing some of this right now, an outgrowth of this right now with these, like you said, brutal attacks with these different shops and so forth that Black women find themselves in. I think the main thing is about the programming, the conditioning, how we're made to see other people, and the lack of attention for Black folks to do for self, to start businesses for ourselves. We do know, and I always say shout out to the Nation of Islam, is very big on that, been doing that for practically a century. And of course there are others, but they've been on the front line for so long with the notion of doing for self, start your own businesses. And I think that because we've been programmed to be a good employee, a good laborer, a good worker, and that mindset also comes out of slavery, I fear that contributes to patronizing non-Black abusive establishments.
Does anybody see it any differently? Is there any other perspective on this? Is it only that we have been conditioned to go ahead and continue to support our oppressors, despite the fact that they punch us in our face, despite the fact that they ganged up on one woman and beat her with broomsticks? Is it really a mental conditioning that we say we're going to do it regardless? Anybody has any other thoughts on this?
Well, I think Sister was right on point with the mindset. You know, we hear terms called Stockholm disease, where we support those who abuse us. And there's been something circulating on the internet concerning an Asian business owner who stated that Black people are some of the most stupidest people on the planet Earth, because he said that you can place Asian business right next to a Black-owned business, and Black people will abandon that Black-owned business in support of that Asian shop. And unfortunately, whether that's a valid statement or not, from what we see, there's a lot of truth in that.
Jay, what about you, sister?
Yeah, I think it goes back to the book Pedagogy of the Oppressed by Paulo Freire, F.R. Freire, yes. And I know you did a piece on that, Dr. Shauna, when we were out there working really, really diligently to shut the shop down again. And just so you all know, the Red Apple Nail Salon is no more. So there was a for rent sign on the gate. And I heard that this morning that for sale sign has been taken off. So there's a possibility that it may be rented. It was a for rent sign. Excuse, that was a correction. But either way, there's something about, I think there's a mental conditioning, and then also a desire for the oppressed, in this case, our people, Black people, to continue to support oppressors in hopes of seeking or gaining some sort of emotional charity or some sort of emotional gratification out of the situation, and or maybe there's some tokenization, desires for tokenization, in that, well, this shop owner may have abused another Black person, but they treat me differently because I'm special and I'm Black. So I think there's a lot happening in there on a psychological level. But Dr. Shauna, I was hoping that you can weigh in on the relationship and the psychology between the oppressed and the oppressor.
Yeah, of course. Before I do that, I just want to welcome in everybody who's in our chat room, because they're in there. We see them all, and I don't want to ignore our brothers and sisters that are in our chat room. So let me just take a moment to say hello to everyone. We have Fundy, Faye, Nick, Oliver, Neema, Mia, Darlene, Kyle, Joy, and the rest of the brothers and sisters, Benita, Sophie B. I just want to say thank you all to your support. Y'all make sure y'all check us out at Fly Nubian Queen TV here on YouTube, as well as FlyNubianQueen.com on Facebook, where we have discussions like this all the time, because this is the Black media. And just like Brother Muhammad was saying, and Sister Vicky is saying, that the Nation of Islam has been structured in such a way that the members are taught self-reliance, self-employment, all this stuff, having their own business. And that at Fly Nubian Queen, we make that possible for our women who are a part of this network by going to flynubianmoney.com or flynubianbusiness.com and getting the skills they need so that they won't have to get punched in their face or beat with sticks and continue to go back into these salons and support them. We have Black people like us, all four of us out here doing the work every day, giving people options every day that they can go sign up, register, get training, so that they no longer have to go into these oppressive establishments and be subjected to animal-like treatment and be okay with it. So I want to weigh into what Jay said about pedagogy of the oppressed. And those who may not know, and I'm not being funny whatsoever, but the word pedagogy is about teaching, it's about education, right? So it's like teaching of the oppressed, how we are programmed, we are taught how to be like and accept our oppressors. And this doesn't come overnight. This is done generation after generation after generation for a very long time. And when we aspire to be like them, we don't even know that it's happening. When we look into, I want to be the boss, I want to be a partner, I want to be a CEO, I want to be the supervisor. And then we start to act just like them. We start to emulate our oppressors. So when I think about this salon, I have to take a different spin. And I'm not saying that I agree with it or disagree with it. I want to push back on you, brothers and sisters, for a second. I want to take a different spin, because when I look at the salon in Brooklyn, when I look at the beauty supply store in Tulsa, Oklahoma, these are Asian people. And we have not been conditioned, right, to see the Asian man as our oppressor. We haven't been conditioned to see him that way. Our condition is the white man in this country. We already know Asians are taking over, right? But psychologically, we don't see them as our oppressor. So I'm curious what else is happening here. Why is it an Asian man can set up a shop, let's say a nail salon or a beauty supply store, right next to a Black man or a Black woman supply store or salon, and we won't patronize our own? I think there's something deeper here. And I want you guys to weigh on that before I say my thoughts. Go ahead, Brother Muhammad.
No, I agree with what you're saying. We are in Black Wall Street, historically Black Wall Street. And a lot of people know of Black Wall Street being destroyed by white folk, but a lot of people don't understand is that we rebuilt Black Wall Street, and we rebuilt it better. We put better stores in our community. But when segregation or desegregation came about, it was that same old principle of the white man's ice is colder than the black man's ice.
Absolutely.
We still today suffer from that type of mentality. So we don't, what was once the light of America as far as the black community, you know, now we just got a few brick buildings and museums, but black business is suffering within the black community because we don't support one another as we should. And it's just because of that mindset. You know, we think that the white theaters is better than the black theaters. The white tailor is better than the black tailor. And, you know, because we have that mentality, we continue to abandon what is ours and fail to support our future. And that's what it is. When we fail to support one another, we fail to support our future.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. But what do we account for with it being an Asian person? Because I don't think psychologically we see Asian psychologically as the oppressor. Now, y'all know they're the next oppressor in line, right? Yeah. Especially Chinese. They're taking over the world. They're about to be the oppressor of the white man too, if another World War III don't come down. But what is it psychologically that we can see our own store next to an Asian man and we'll go into the Asian man store? Vicky, what you say about that, sister? You got to take your mic off of mute.
I'm sorry, I thought that's what I did. Thank you. I still think that in that instance, it has more to do with the self-hate. I think in terms of Black folk, less not just about you know, the color, you know, whether it's you know, they call them yellow men, but you know, Asians and so forth, and white. I think that more or less has to do with, you know, self-hate, and also there's a novelty factor that I think takes place with Black people. But my first mind says that it has to do more or less with again, self-hate, other than us, you know what I mean? Other than us, it still sort of operates in the same way. And perhaps subconsciously, there's still some of that going on, seeing that the actual actions and the behaviors of a lot of Asian establishments mirrors white folk, you know, racist white people. I think that some of that has to do with it. But again, my first mind says it still has to do with the self-hate, our own internal as it relates to that. But anyway, that's a short answer, my short answer.
Sister Jade, what you say?
This is so frustrating. I got to take my glasses off. I'm going to say that I think there's a bit of a conundrum. I think while there is, like, Asian people have a closer proximity to whiteness, right? So they're not the white man, but if you look at the racial hierarchy or the totem pole, they are next in line, as Dr. Shauna says. But then on the flip side of it, you know, we're conditioned mentally to see every non-white person as a person of color, and therefore that person is automatically an ally and automatically experiences the same level of racism that we experience. And so that's why I'm a big proponent of calling out our experience as straight up anti-Blackness, because at the very, very bottom of that racial hierarchy is the anti-Blackness, and that is what gets to be addressed. And so while, you know, you can have two beauty supply stores or nail salons or whatever, the exact same thing next to each other, Black folks own one and an Asian person owns the other one. Deeply within our psychology of some of our people, they are still going to prefer the Asian man's ice or the white man's ice as colder than our own. Because
are the Puerto Ricans, are the Arabs.
Exactly. Any other non-Black group. And we're taught to distrust each other and to distrust ourselves. And that also goes back to the Willie Lynch syndrome.
So this is what I'm hearing you all saying. Okay, so we already know, we look at the white man as, oh, he's golden, he got cold ice, he got great property, he's a rich man, he's the best thing on earth, right? And then we know that psychologically with the Asian person, like Sister Jade was saying, we might look at him as, well, it's not the same, he's a person of color, because we like to hide behind these titles like person of colors, and we don't like to call it what it is, right? So we like to hide behind these titles. But what I'm hearing, the most important thing that I'm hearing, I'm about to jump into this topic right here, is the anti-Blackness. And I think, now I'm going to be bold, whether people like it or not, I'm going to be bold. I think Black people are the biggest proponents of anti-Blackness.
Mm.
There's nothing wrong with that. Because I seen in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I saw it in Brooklyn, New York. Both brother Muhammad and Sister Jay were out there diligently boycotting these stores. And the pushback that they got was from Black women. What do we say about that?
Mm.
Don't all jump in at one time. Come on now, tell me what y'all say about this.
You know, one thing that I've encountered on multiple occasions from my sister, and you know, you go through a range of experiences. But one thing I did encounter is many of our sisters just did not like the fact that Black men were telling them what to do, or what they perceived as Black men telling them what to do. So, you know, oftentimes our sisters say, "Where's my money? I can spend it where I want to." And I would respond, "Yes, it is your money, Queen, but does it make sense to support a man that beats on Black women in our community?" But that was one of the issues that I've encountered on multiple occasions. As far as our sisters, it was like this independent mindset. They just did not want to be told, or felt that they were being told by a Black man what to do. Because initially, as you saw from the videos, there were many Black men out there, and many of our sisters just do not like a Black man telling them what to do, period.
That's a whole nother topic. But I think Jade had a different experience per se in terms of the Black men in Brooklyn. And Jade, I want you to speak to this, but I didn't see the Black men in Brooklyn telling the women what to do. These women were consciously choosing to go into this Asian man's store, despite the fact that they were given flyers of addresses with Black-owned stores that they can go to.
Yeah, absolutely. It was really unfortunate. I want to back up a little bit and say that, yes, the experience was a bit different. It wasn't like the Black female customers were upset that, you know, Black men were telling us what to do. There was also some myths and some talking about we weren't getting any Black male support. So the controversy or the word on the street here was that, you know, Black women are being abused and attacked all the time, and Black men never come to our defense. Well, I will say that Black men were really, really consistent. Even if it was 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 brothers out there on any given day, for the most part, we were never out there alone or by ourselves. And they also were there, you know, to stand up for the Black woman, which was a very beautiful thing. But I think that the psychology that was happening with a lot of our sisters who continued to go into that shop was that they were being, I believe that they were being exploited emotionally by their personal relationships with the shop owner. Michael, aka Zinjin Lin, who was the owner of the Red Apple Nail Salon, had been in the community and doing everybody's nails for at least 11 years and had, you know, seen people grow up. In fact, 2 of the attackers had been going to his shop for that amount of time. And, you know, they were still assaulted in his store. And he held Christina Thomas hostage to the point where she passed out, if you go back and look at the video. However, that wasn't enough to stop a lot of these women from going into the shop because they felt like they had a personal relationship with him. And they also, a lot of people are like, well, I don't talk about race and racism. I'm from a different part of the world. I'm from so-and-so island. You know, I don't really get into conversations about race and racism. And then, so there was that. Although we had a lot of West Indian and also continental Africans and African American descendants of slaves, or, you know, African Americans, you know, out here organizing the protests, but you also had something around ageism. So a lot of, especially the older folks who have been attending or patronizing that particular shop continue to go and do so because they're like, this is my nail salon. They do nails well. And although Michael did something to those Black women or those people, the workers did something to those Black women, they've never done that to me. Or they're just kind of like, well, they must have done something to deserve it. So there were so many different levels, especially like the tribalism thing played out really, really heavy.
I know Sister Vicky got something to say because I see her moving over there. Go ahead, Sister, lay it on us.
Yes, ma'am. I was saying, you know, it goes back to what I was saying earlier. I think it's still connected to the conditioning, definitely the programming, like Sister J said, the anti-Blackness, and I was saying the self-hate. You know, us, no matter who the other person is, no matter what color they are, white or Asian or what have you, you know, we're still are conditioned, shaped, molded to be anti-Black in our operation. But Jade, when she was talking, I saw footage, I want to say, was it in New York, where even after they had been out there protesting for a long time, I was seeing, I thought it was African immigrants going in there hugging one of the Asian owners. And I wanted her to confirm that. Is that true? That one of the clip, and it's been a while since I've seen the clip when all this was going on, but it was a looks like an Asian immigrant that was in there hugging him, notwithstanding what took place with Black women, you know, being beaten, brutalized by these Asian folk. Is that right, Jay?
Well, a lot of them were from, this is a West Indian, heavily West Indian or Caribbean American neighborhood. So a lot of the women who were going in there were actually from the Caribbean. And there were a couple, you know, African American, you know, Black folk going in there as well. But I will say that in that particular video that went viral, there were a lot of West Indian women that particular day. And that was like the morning after he had reopened the shop. And so a lot of people going in there, hugging him, kissing him. There was some older West Indian women from the church, you know, praying over Michael, who should really be arrested right now. Let me just get it straight. Praying over him and saying that Jesus wanted him to open back up the shop. There was a lot of slave talk happening. It was really unfortunate and very disheartening to see. And I think that when that particular clip went out, it really exposed a lot of, you know, some things we might not want to talk about. We might have to talk about the mental conditioning of our people and how anti-Blackness has seeped into our psyche globally, right? This is not just a Black American issue. You know, the oppression, the racism and colonialism and all of that also operates within West Indian and African cultures as well. And it's something that we can no longer turn a blind eye to.
Well, Vicky, you asked that for a reason. I want you to take us a little bit deeper with your thoughts, Vicky, because I can tell it's spinning in your head.
Well, it is, and I'm really, to be honest, I'm still thinking about that, because there's really nothing more profound, I think, in my own perception, than to say about the connection to anti-Blackness and self-hate and this manifestation. You know, circumstance, the situation keeps letting us know how sick we really are, and quite frankly, Dr. Shauna, how important you and your services and those like you I think are so extraordinarily important, you know, to help us deal with what's going on with this mind so that we can heal, because we are certainly doing harm to each other. That's really where my mind is.
But, you know, as a therapist, I'm trained to look at this in multiple areas, right? We know the underlying thing is the anti-Blackness. We know the underlying thing is the self-hate and being in love, as Brother Muhammad said, the Stockholm syndrome, being in love with our oppressor. I understand that's psychological, but I think there's another conditioning that's going on here that we're not addressing, because those Chinese people or Asian people, I don't know what they were, but I know they were Asian. They did something that most exploiters do. And our people seem to be the only people that don't get up on the marketing aspect of it. They slice their prices. 50% off, I believe, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, right? And in Brooklyn, at that day, shit, they'll do your nails for $2, you know, and I'm being funny, but they were very strategic. They were like, I'm gonna keep them here by slicing the prices. Now, we have been conditioned, the anti-Blackness among our own is real. We already know America is anti-Black, but when it's from us, it bothers me, because I hear the language all the time. And Brother Muhammad, I want you to speak to this. I hear the language all the time when we say those Black people charge too much. And if everybody is coming into our community charging $20 and our services are $50, automatically we're going to say this isn't a race thing, this is an economical thing. That's the easy thing we're going to say. We know it's deeper than that, but our people's going to say, I'm going to get it from Lynn Home or Sung Lee because it's $20. I'm not giving Shaniqua $50 for something I can get for $20. So we can say all these other things, but I'm serious about this. We have to start to look at this thing in multiple angles, because we're playing with a multi-headed beast. And we got to cut down every last one of those heads. Brother Muhammad, you got to unmute yourself, brother.
Here I go. Yeah, that was one of the major things we had to deal with in Tulsa, because just a stone's throw away from June's Beauty Supply, we have a Black-owned shop, Sajay's. I mean, literally a stone's throw away from June's Beauty Shop.
Really?
But because of that mindset, oh, the sister, she has an attitude. Oh, the sister, her price is a little bit too much. Those type of excuses, I call them, is one of the things that we constantly encounter. Not only do we have Sajay's directly across the street, but halfway down the road, maybe half a mile away, we have another Black-owned beauty supply store, Essence Beauty Supply. But these Black businesses are suffering because of Mr. June and the support that he has. One thing that they did in Tulsa, the Asian shops who have the Black community triangulated as far as northeast, south, and west, as far as having a shop strategically located. They found out, they came together and determined what Black people in North Tulsa were using the most of. And what the other shops did was raise the prices for those products in their shops in order to force them back to June's to get it cheaper. Whether it be edge control, whatever the case may be, they worked together as a community to ensure Black people continue to support this abusive shop owner. And in that manner, June became the new Jesus in our community. He was the savior for many of our sisters, because many of them value these products more than they value themselves and value each other. So that was a big problem that we had, that self-hate, that failure. We don't want to see a sister, our brother, to excel beyond us. Many of us have that love. We see our brother and sister. We want them to be better, but there are a lot in our community who don't want to see their brother and their sister excel beyond them. And that kind of goes back to that self-hate or the crabs in the bucket type mentality.
I got something deep to say about that, but I want to hear from Jade.
Yeah, so, some people about to be real mad at me, but it's okay. It's all in love. I think that we have to start looking at how we're valuing ourselves when it comes to Black aesthetics. How or why is it that going into a shop, that is going to beautify ourselves or make ourselves feel good? Clearly, we want our hair done, we want to be clean, we want makeup and all of these, different things, hair, whatever the hair care products are. But for some, a lot of Black women, having, getting their hair done, getting these sorts of products to make them feel better is somehow more important than standing in solidarity with other Black people. And I think that's something that we have to look at. Here in Brooklyn, it was a nail salon. You know what I'm saying? We work hard. We like to go get our toes done, get a hand massage, get a foot massage, and all of that stuff. But in certain moments for certain customers, that was far more important to make themselves feel beautiful was far more important than saying, absolutely not. We're not going to support this racist anti-Black establishment. What do you all think about that?
I think it's fair. I think, and Vicky, I'm gonna let you go in a second, but I honestly think it's fair because when I think about the psychological programming of our people, many of these people feel that if I stand out here, I run the risk of somebody spotting me, I'm losing my job. I run the risk of upsetting family members that don't agree with me. I run the risk of upsetting my pastor who told me Jesus loves everybody and I got to love everybody. I run the risk of upsetting or confusing my children, and I don't want them to have problems at school. I don't want them to be singled out at school. It's fear. It's fear in so many different angles. I run the risk of getting killed because even though, it may not be how it used to be during the civil rights era, but we're still getting killed, right? And we still have this suspicion, and it's a healthy suspicion of the FBI, right? COINTELPRO, of the new Black extremists. We still have these suspicions. So people are not willing to risk their life, their money, their dignity. They're not willing to risk it for their brothers or sisters. And especially when you have religious leaders telling them that things are different and we can conquer everything with love. Sometimes we got to conquer things with our damn fists, but don't get me started. Go ahead, Vicky, our brother Muhammad. I'm gonna shut up.
Again, that was another issue. We encountered so many issues, and that was another issue that we encountered, the church and the lack of support from the religious community. And that was, I mean, right out of the book. Many of those sisters who continued to support June came to us saying that their pastor has taken a neutral position because, you know, he promoted love and forgiveness. And, you know, my thing was, what about the Black women? Who gave him permission to ask for forgiveness on their behalf? And the problem was that I found was they had so many sisters in many cases who attended the church that the pastors were afraid to speak up out of fear of losing money in the offering plate.
Wow, that is so profound. I wanted to, say this too, as it relates to our brother Minister Alvin. When you all were showing up, and the women were angry and upset because you were saying that they didn't want a Black man telling them what to do. We are at war.
Sister, your voice is going in and out. Your voice is going in and out.
Okay, can you hear me now?
It's still kind of breaking up.
It's breaking up, yeah.
I don't know what it is. Let's see.
It could be the weather, because I know here in Tulsa, the weather's changing dramatically.
Maybe if everyone else goes on mute while she's speaking, it might correct it.
Can you all hear me okay? Okay. Yes. Minister Farrakhan said something interesting. He said, business is warfare. We're taught that business is warfare. And because we're not trained with that mindset, we don't even recognize that we're at war, Black people, and that the war is us, and that the war is being manifested in media, arts and entertainment, through Wall Street, through mainstream, through religion, through business. We don't recognize that. And I think that's a big part of it. And so because some of those sisters, instead of seeing you, Minister, as being a soldier, as being someone that's there to protect them, you were saying that they perceived it to be some Black men trying to tell them what to do. And so that, I believe, is a lot of, that's something that's at play there, where we are not trained to realize that Black folk, we are at war on multiple fronts, and that the war is us. Business is warfare. And so you want to get your little nails done and all that, you were easily prostituted back into the store for 50% off, or what have you, not understanding the greater scheme that's going on. And I think that has to do with us teaching, of course, and being willing to listen. But I think that that's a big part of them, their inability to recognize that we are at war.
I'm glad you spoke about being at war, Sister Vicky, because there's one thing I always preach on all my platforms. Your first line of defense, and I know you guys heard me say this before, but your first line of defense is the family. And our family units are broken down. Okay. And even when, and not in all situations, but in too many of them, even when we have on the outside a family unit that looks like it's intact, we have two heads on one snake. You cannot have two people leading that relationship, that unit. We got the children playing the mother and the father against each other. We have the husband and the wife against each other. And then we have families, their families against each other. So we can't even keep our family units intact. How are we going to go up against a larger system and combat this economic warfare, this spiritual warfare, this race warfare, everything that we are in? How can we fight it if our units are broken down? What are your thoughts? Go ahead, Jay. Let's start with Jay, then we go to Brother Muhammad, then Vicky.
I'm gonna pass it over to Sister Vicky right quick, because that was a lot for me to wrap my head around. But yeah, I mean, the family unit is the basic level of organization within any culture and community. And so we're struggling really, really hard to keep our families together. So yeah, I want to hear from y'all, then I'll weigh in.
Go ahead, Brother Muhammad, then I go to Vicky.
When I'm listening to y'all, and I'm just going over, just thinking about the different changes, emotional changes that we have to go through during this 6 months at June. And when you talk about the family unit, one thing that we've noticed is the reversal of the family unit as it relates to supporting Junes, where Black men were taught or should have been taught to be protectors. Now you see Black women, we've encountered Black women actually bringing men to Junes to attack the boycotters. I personally have been physically, I've been pepper sprayed. I actually had to get into a physical altercation with the brother. And on one situation, had a brother pull a gun on some of the protesters. All of them were brought up by sisters who wanted to support June's Beauty Supply without any body saying anything to them as far as not supporting that business. But these sisters bring these men up there, and instead of the men taking the lead, the men are following the sisters into the store, supporting a man that beats Black women, and are willing at this, at the call of many of these sisters to attack other Black men who are standing out for Black women. This has been a extremely emotional, draining process dealing with our people over the last 6 months. But that reversal of the family unit is manifested at June when you see our sisters willing to use Black men against Black men to protect an Asian business owner who has abused multiple Black women, not one but 4 Black women.
Go ahead, Vicky. Go ahead. Unmute yourself, Sister Vicky, and tell us what you think. Press unmute. It's okay. She having difficulties over there pressing unmute.
All right, thank you. Yes, it wouldn't take it when I kept hitting it. Thank you all for your patience. Yes, Minister Alvin Muhammad, it is so true. And again, I hate to be redundant, but it is about not recognizing that we are at war. She actually basically enlisted all the other warrior for the warrior, that you were trying to protect Black women. But it also says something about the Black man that came up there not perceiving the fact that he should have been concerned about the Black woman that's being, attacked and abused. It goes again, same thing about the conditioning. Why isn't he intelligent enough or able to discern and perceive the fact that he should be angry at the store owner attacking this Black woman? But the difference is, Minister Alvin, you've been taught, you've been trained, the maker of being, to understand the value of the woman, who she is, what she contributes to the earth. So your perception, your worldview is informed, and thus your actions. And that, I think, goes to the self-saving work that we still got to do with our people in altering their belief systems and changing their worldview so they can properly see, because they don't even know what they're looking at. We are at war, and you think that you are watching, Coming to America. I mean, I don't know. I'm just way back with the movie, but you don't even know what you're looking at. You don't even know what you're involved in. And that goes to networks like this one, where we're here to inform and to inspire, and what you do on the ground. Is that right? When we inform, that activist work, Jade, constantly informing, because it's always that remnant. Everybody else is so busy working, right? They're raising children. They're paying back school loans. They're going to doctor's appointment, to where they're not even paying attention to legislation, to policies, to things that are happening around them in establishments, which is why it's so important that we also support the activists, our dear brother, the FOI of the NOI, the Nation of Islam, because these are folks that are acting as watchmen and watchwomen on your behalf. And that's what extra little something I threw with there in terms of supporting. But these are folks that knows we're going to have the ability to observe. And you know what, Dr. Shana? Isn't that the beauty of being self-employed and doing for self? Because you get a chance to move around your schedule. You have a level of freedom to where you can pay attention. You can do more of that saving work, more of that good work, because you are in an economic position to do for yourself, and you're not restricted to a 9 to 5. you know, and if you need to move some stuff around, you know what I'm saying? That's something extra too, which we always talk about with FlyNubianBusiness.com, by the way. If you want to go there, FlyNubianBusiness.com, it's Flynubian Money. But anyway, that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, let me take this opportunity to reintroduce ourselves to the audience, just in case more people are coming on. We have Sister Jade Arundel. She is out of New York City area, a fierce activist. This sister here does not let up. I've seen this sister in Brooklyn when those girls got beat down in the beauty supply store. She was out there. She didn't need a bullhorn because her mouth was big enough. She was shutting ish down. Do you hear me? This sister is fierce. And she has a campaign that she goes about teaching anti-Blackness. And, you know, and I know when we think of anti-Blackness, we think of the other people, but we also got to start thinking about our own behavior that is anti-Blackness as well. Then we have Sister Vicky Dillard. Y'all know Sister Vicky Dillard. She's a contributor here on Fly Nubian Queen TV and FlyNubianQueen.com on Facebook. She is awesome. She's always talking about spiritual issues, religious issues, political issues, and she does her research. She does her research and she does her homework, and she is not afraid to go up against forces, whether they're white or Black, that is detrimental to our community. And that's why she's a bad sister. We also have Brother Alvin Muhammad. He is part of, I'm not mistaken, brother, part of the Nation of Islam, right? Part of the Nation of Islam. And he is a fierce advocate. He is out there. But most importantly, Brother Muhammad not only loves Black women, but he loves his family. He loves each and every one of us. And he has put his life on the line more than once, fighting for us, for our respect, for us to get the love that we deserve, to teach us as women how to go about living our lives in order for us to operate together collectively as a unit. He's an awesome minister in training. He is dope. You guys got to follow him. And then you guys know who I am, Dr. Shauna Etienne, also known as Dr. Shauna on FlyNubianQueen.com on Facebook. And, you know, I'm getting over to the YouTube thing, but I'm a contributor with Fly Nubian Queen. And I always teach about healthy Black families in all aspects, not only the marriage, but relationships, parenting, right? Business, in all those areas, because that all matters. If our unit is healthy, we can combat so many things that we experience, even owning our own businesses, like Vicky was saying. So that's why we have the platforms like Fly Nubian Money, Fly Nubian Business. We also have our store, so you can go and just show how much you love your Blackness, right? Your shop FNQ. We have all this stuff going on. Visit those websites. Exactly. Let's just not talk about it. Let's really be about it. What we're talking about today is the beauty supply store in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where this Asian guy, I don't even want to say his name. I don't even want to give his name any power, but he punched a Black woman in her face. There was protests going on. The Black women were so upset at the Black male protesters. They went in the store to spend their money regardless. Even though they got 50% off and they were saving a lot of money, they could have went down the block and spent their money with Black businesses, but they made the psychological and mental decision to spend their money with this abuser who only got 5 days. 5 days, was it probation?
That's right. That's right.
5 days probation.
Yep.
Come on. If that is not enough to say that something is wrong in our community. But I want to go back and I want Jay to speak a little bit more about this. Let me switch for a little bit. Jay spoke about tribalism among us. Jade, I want you to speak a little bit deeper in that, because we have a lot of battles in our community where people are upset with African Americans identifying themselves as American descendants of slaves, right? People feel that it don't matter, but then when we turn around, Caribbean people have different outlooks and perspectives on African Americans. It's crazy what's going on. Africans have different perspectives. We got different perspectives on them. Speak to that tribalism, Jay, because I think this is important for the people to weigh in on.
Yeah, absolutely. So tribalism is defined as when people are identifying with their tribe, and historically what that has looked like, well, within the African context is, ethnic groups or, different clans or different family groups or tribal groups. Within this global context of the African diaspora, what we're seeing is that people are defining their tribes oftentimes by nationality, what country we come from, right? So, you know, we're African descendants of slaves here in America. And then you have, you know, Jamaicans, Haitians, you have folks from Honduras, Nigeria, Ghana, you know, Ethiopia, etc. And so what we're seeing happen, well, that happens on a global scale, but I'll like zoom in a little bit on a macro level. When I was in college, there were, I think, you know, I went to Temple University. I went there to study African American studies. The Black student population was only about 6% of the total student body, because it's a huge public research university. But what we saw within the Black demographic was tribalism manifesting in a way that people were forming friends and groups based off of what state we came from, right? So there was like DC, Maryland, and Virginia. So that was like one group. And then it was like New York and then Philly. And then there were continental Africans, and you had the Jamaican, you know, so all of that is happening. I think within the context of anti-Blackness, because there has been a very, very specific experience for those of us who are descendants of slaves here in America. I'm an African. I'm a Pan-Africanist. You know, I'm an African first. I'm going to put that out there. But because there has been a very unique experience here for us in terms of living so closely to the white man and being oppressed through all of these different systems throughout the historical timeline, our experiences are different, and the way that we see race and racism oftentimes differs, where that you, like my husband is from Trinidad. And then, you know, when I have conversations from folks who are African people who are not from the States, they will say that, well, we don't really have racism in our country or on our island because everyone there is Black for the most part, and or is very, very mixed. And so we don't have the same experiences with whiteness. But then when you go and you dig deeper, it's just like, well, who's writing the curriculum in the schools? Why is the UK still writing, like the British, they still have a dominance over curriculum and what's being taught within schools, although emancipation has taken place. And we see this happening throughout, you know, the colonies, you know, from the French, the Spanish, the British, you know, in the Caribbean, also in Central and South America, but also on the continent. And so I think that what has happened by us identifying, unfortunately, as a group with more so like our nationality and what country we come from, as opposed to seeing ourselves as global Africans, it's caused a lot of contention. So there's negative attitudes that are projected about African Americans specifically. A lot of people come to this country without knowing anything about the transatlantic slave trade, that we were enslaved, nothing about the Reconstruction era, nothing about Jim Crow, nothing about the prison industrial complex. But what they're getting is a lot of anti-Black images projected in media that everyone follows around the world about Black people. You know, I even have some friends that come from different parts of the Caribbean, and they didn't know that their people were also victims of the transatlantic slave trade until they came to America. So there's a breakdown in what's being taught in terms of our history as African people. And then also once people immigrate here, a lot of folks are just completely ignorant and or lack empathy for the Black American experience. And so that's how tribalism is showing up. And within that, the anti-Blackness is, you know, at the very, very bottom of this melting pot is the Black American.
How do you think we can fix that? And I want any of you guys to weigh in on it. How do you think we can fix that? Because that's just not an American issue, tribalism. That tribalism is globally. We are separated from each other. I mean, we can live right next door to each other. But if you are Haitian and I'm African American, you know, you're going to have some stereotypes about me. I'm going to have some stereotypes about you, and it's going to keep us from connecting. How do we fix that?
You know, in Tulsa, first of all, I want to apologize for everybody for, I'm out of dress, been out working today. I'm out sitting in the car with one of my workers. Say hello, Brandon. But we're just taking a little break and logging in. But one thing that we have in Tulsa, we live in the Bible Belt. And yes, we have the tribalism, but we have what I call denominationalism. That's one of the major problems here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It is though we have replaced every Black business that we had on Black Wall Street with a church. So when you come to Tulsa, Oklahoma, you're gonna see a church. You may not see a business, but you're gonna see a church. And many of them, you know, when they say 2 or 3 on a corner, Tulsa epitomizes that type of environment. And that's some of the things that we have had to deal with during this boycott and other issues within our community is the issue with denominational division. At one point, about 4 years ago, I served as the vice president of the NAACP, and the president, wasn't a Baptist. He was a Church of Christ member. So you had a Muslim and a Church of Christ member leading the NAACP in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And we did not get the support because many of the Baptist ministers felt that the president of the NAACP needed to be a Baptist person. And the fact that I was a Muslim made it that much worse for many of them. Even though we grew and we were very successful, but that was some of the issues that we dealt with here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We are limited by our belief systems, and our belief systems prevent us from moving out because we don't want to be seen as one who supports a Muslim or one who supports a Church of Christ member or one who supports a Baptist, because we have our individual conventions and we don't want to get beyond those conventions, and that prevents us, particularly here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, from moving forward and addressing many of the issues in our community, whether it be education, development within our community. We have to get beyond those things and lay down those differences in order for us to move forward as a community. We have to learn to see each other for the value that we bring to the situation, as opposed to the way we believe and what we practices. You know, that becomes a great hindrance for us as a community.
That's so. I totally agree. And to try to answer the question about, what do we do about, there's a statement that says that some things are taught and some things are caught, other things are caught, some things are taught, some things are caught. And I say that to say, in the wake of so many anti-Black attacks, we're learning that some of those Black-skinned people that are being attacked hail from other countries. One of the 54 from the continent of Africa, some are Haitians, and other parts of the Caribbean. So I think that that's one of the things that's going to force a level of unity. That's number one, in understanding, because we know that the ignorance about Black history, especially American Black history, is rampant throughout the world. We know intentionally that negative images of Black folk here in America have intentionally been exported to the world. As Mr. Farrakhan said, remember, when he went on one of his world tours, one of the reasons he did that was because of his concern about the negative images of Black men that were being exported to the world. And his concern was that when America attacks Black folk, when there's the war going on, guess what? The world won't be outraged. Nobody's going to be outraged when they see, the image, but they're used to seeing this image of a Black man as a beast and a savage. Who's going to want to intervene around the world for that? So he intentionally travel the globe in order to inform and also, I believe, present an example of an upstanding Black man and to expose the agenda in America concerning the Black, the image of Black men in particular, but we know also Black women as well. So that's one thing. I think there's two things that are happening. Is number one, circumstances, situations are forcing other Black-skinned people from around the world to unify with us because they're under attack. But also, it's going to take constant and deliberate teaching and training and patience on our part as well to inform folk of this, because again, they don't realize that this is what's happening. So we're having to inform them, and you know what? Connect the dots. Help them to connect the dots. Of what's going on.
I also think a part of that too is holding those who look like us in positions of power in politics accountable for pushing our agendas.
Yes.
So I want to know a little bit, if I could pose the question, Dr. Shauna, to Brother Minister Albert Muhammad, what support, if any, have Black politicians lent in your efforts to shut down that despicable establishment? And I will say that, you know, here in Brooklyn, we have had some very, 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 very few, I can count on one hand, Black elected officials and key influencers and stakeholders that have actually come out and shown support. But there are a lot of people in higher positions who have continued to turn a blind eye when such anti-Black violence is perpetuated, especially against Black women and Black men.
We've had in Tulsa, we have City Councilman and State Representative Regina Goodwin, City Councilman Vanessa Hall Harper, who have been very strong advocates of the boycott. In fact, they've been out there. If you look at the videos, they've been out there constantly encouraging our sisters not to support such an establishment. So we had very strong support from our local representatives. Unfortunately, we don't have that many. We live in a red state here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I mean, in the state of Oklahoma, very red. I think they have about 300 state and representatives, and we only have about, I think it's 7 Black representatives. And the one, Regina Goodwin, that's over our district, she's been very supportive of the call for the boycott, looking up information, providing us with information on the state level as to what we can do. But again, we don't have that many representatives as other states have. So what we do have, we've been given great support from our powerful Black sisters who are in those positions.
I'm going to be unpopular here for a moment because I know I have a different perspective when it comes to politics than a lot of other people, but I'm only speaking for myself. I'm not speaking for anybody else or on behalf of anybody else. I don't give two flying, you know what, about these politicians. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful. These politicians are bought. These politicians are shaking hands and they tap dancing and soft shoeing for the dollar figure and for the power. So I have not come to trust half of these politicians that are out here. And until they can sit down and speak to us and come up with a real agenda that benefits us, I don't have anything to say to any of them. Because the reason why they didn't show up for you at these protests is because they saw that their daddies, the people that fund them, are watching. And if you come up and you support these protesters, you run the risk of not being elected again. You run the risk of being blackmailed. You run the risk of being blackballed. You run the risk of having negative effects because you came and you stood with some brothers and sisters. I can't respect somebody like that. And there's no politician have been true to us to follow through with everything for us. They are the politicians for everybody. And it trickles down to us, and whatever's left over, we get. And what we get is death, destruction, mass incarceration, poor education, poverty. So I'm sorry, just for me, I'm not entertaining a politician. And they ain't getting my goddamn vote until they talk to me. That's just me. Don't be quiet now.
Hey, that I mean, what are you saying? We do need, it's like Obama stated, he wasn't a Black person's president, he was America's president. And unfortunately, we do have many politicians, Black politicians, who play into that system and disregard the concerns of the Black community. And that's a major problem that we have. That's why we have to come together as a community and begin to address our own problems, because once you go into that system, it's hard for you to stand firm on issues that deal specifically with the Black community. We must come together, pull our resources, and begin, as the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad says, to do for self.
But here's the thing, I don't live in a dichotomy. It can't be black or white, either or. Why can't it be both and? Why can't he be the president for everybody and the president for American descendants of slaves? Why can't he be both and? And he both in for LGBTQ. He's both in for Jewish. He both in for everybody. Why can't he be both in?
Yeah, that's a serious problem. It's like over the internet we're dealing with Steve Harvey. It was kind of funny, what he said recently with our sister Monique, and then somebody posted his live show where he was talking about I'll be a monkey for $10 million. and that's
and that's exactly what he is, a monkey.
You know, and that's a problem that we have. Many of our people will sell out for $1. It don't matter how humiliating they sell out for and how shameful it makes our community. Unfortunately, we have too many people, and that goes back to June. Those who support June, or those who support Red Apple Nail Salon. We have too many people within our community who will support those who abuse us, regardless of the abuse. They want to be comfortable. They're only concerned about themselves, and they're selfish in that manner.
So true. That is absolutely true. And even when we think about, the Congressional Black Caucus, has been under fire too for what appears to be inactivity and ineffectiveness. And I know that there are some that are there trying to do some things, and we don't always hear and keep up with some of what they're doing. But you have to maintain your touch with the grassroots people, and we're seeing a problem with it, especially some of them that have come out. I think it's Representative Barbara Lee. Right now, she's come out in support of Kamala Harris, which is fine. But when we're talking about anti-Black policies, we're talking about anti-Black environment that's certainly heightened right now, and they feel no need, I guess, to give us an explanation as to how they can ignore Kamala's record and what assurances does she give to them, the Congressional Black Caucus, that she's not going to be as anti-Black as her record shows that she is. It's amazing to me. And to me, that goes with them just supporting, their buddies, supporting their friends. We're in Congress together. That's my girl. Let me do this, while ignoring our voices, ignoring the concerns of the new Black media. And you know what? They feel like they can afford to do it. They feel like that they can afford to do it. And that, to me, is the greatest problem related to that. And I think that a part of us combating that, and why they're so upset with us, we're starting to make headway in terms of our power, is because of certainly social media and the rise of the new Black media, where they're beginning to chip away at the establishment that too many of our people are supporting, which is white supremacy. And I always want to say shout out to the Nation of Islam again, because they've been the new Black media. The Final Call newspaper has been on the scene without question, week after week, day after day, talk about reparations, talk about what we expect, what we demand, on practically, in every issue. Is that right, Minister Alvin? Every issue, it's placed in there what the Muslims want. Is that right?
That's right. That's right. On the back of the Final Call.
We talk about land. We talk about the demand for America taking care of us 20 to 25 years. This has been going on since the 20th century. So shout out to them. I believe that Minister Farrakhan, that Farrakhan consciousness.
Your voice is going out so bad. I don't know if it's your Wi-Fi connection, but it's going out really bad.
I'm sorry.
It's okay, but we got the gist of what you were saying. Shout out to everybody who's in the chat room. Make sure you guys give us a thumbs up for this video. Like us here on Fly Nubian Queen TV. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you can be notified when we go live. And if you are one of those Facebook people, we love Facebook people too. Go on over to Fly Nubian Queen on Facebook and make sure you like and follow us there as well. You can find us, the queens over here, on all the channels, Fly Nubian Queen TV and FlyNubianQueen.com on Facebook. And make sure you guys visit our website, Fly Nubian Queen Money or Fly Nubian Queen Business, so that you can go ahead and find out what we do outside of social media. But I'm going to say this, and we're going to start to wrap this up because we have to get going. I don't want to get so caught up in politics, because I also know that our sister Jade, she's in politics, right? And that's why I said I'm going to be bold to say what I have to say, because we all don't have to have the same opinion or the same viewpoint. And it's okay. All of our viewpoints and our opinions are to be respected. I'm okay with getting a sister like Jade Arendelle my vote, because she's a fierce warrior. And I know that she's always going to hold my brothers and sisters in Brooklyn to the highest. And she's going to look out for them because she has proven herself to do just that. But when we talk about why are we continuously giving our money to a system that doesn't love or support us, we came up with so many things. I've heard us talk about the anti-Blackness. I've heard us talk about the self-hate. I heard us talk about religion, miseducation. There's a lot of reasons why we continuously give our money to others outside of our community. I want everyone to give their last final words with that. I will start with myself. Maybe because I am a couples therapist, maybe because I'm an African-centered couples therapist, but I always say our number one defense is our family. Is our family. And you know how people say everything has to be start at home and taught at home. We got to do a lot of restructuring of our thinking. We have to do a lot of re-education. We got to be aware of who we are. And all of that stuff has to trickle down to the generations and our family so that we can then take it back into the world. And what I see, we have so much information coming from so many people outside of our family. So many information is influencing how a marriage should look, how a relationship should look, how you can parent your kids. You shouldn't spank your kids. You should beat your kids. All these crazy things that are coming into our families, and we don't even know what to believe. We got to get the family right. We got to get the family legacy right, the family vision right, right? The love for the Black man and the Black woman has to be right. So because I'm a couples therapist, I'm always gonna focus on relationships, starting with the family. I think that would be my contribution into helping change the system that we live in. Go ahead, Jade.
Yeah, I'll add on to that. Outside of the family is the most basic unit. I want to add on to the fact that in the Black community, we're taught and conditioned to be consumers. And we have to come to terms with the fact that we are unable to compete in a global economy. And because we're unable, we don't have the tools or, allocating resources appropriately, through business and enterprise and dominating industries, because we're unable to compete as Black people in a global economy. That reinforces something that says, these people aren't worthy of being respected. And I don't know if that's something that we're also internalizing, but on the flip side of that, you have anti-Blackness being perpetuated, by Asian communities all over the globe, where there is Black people. So while we're talking about what's happening in Brooklyn or what happened in Tulsa, we also know that these incidences of anti-Black violence is also happening on the continent. It's happening in the Caribbean, so we're being attacked on multiple sides. And I think that we have a lot of undoing to do. So at some point we have to stop believing that the white man's ICE, the Asian man's ICE, the Arab man's ICE, Arabic man's ICE, and everyone else's ICE is colder, and be willing to be invested in our community, with our dollars, and then to also take a stand against oppression, a stand like fearlessly to say, absolutely not. This is a boundary that you will not cross. And if you do it, if you try it, we will shut you down. So I think until we do that, unfortunately, these sorts of things will continue to happening. But what I'm also going to say and put it out there is that I'm seeing a lot more resistance happening within the Black community. And so, all that we can do is I can do is hope for that momentum continues to pick up.
Sister Vicky, and then we'll end with Brother Muhammad.
I could not agree more with everything that's been said so far. And I have to say, in agreement too with you, Dr. Shauna, that the foundation of all of this, where we can condition properly the minds and shape a whole nation, is by the family, with the family, because we cannot have prosperous Black communities. We cannot have prosperous Black neighborhoods, communities, states, and certainly not a nation if the foundation is not properly set between that Black man and that Black woman, and then the family, the Black family. I totally agree.
Brother Muhammad?
Again, family is first and foremost. But as business owners, one thing that we've encountered, even though we do have Black-owned businesses very close to June, I would say, and this is a principle that I've applied as a business owner. Name of our business is Superior Outdoor Services. We do all type of landscaping, lawn care. But the reason why I called my name Superior is because I wanted to have something to live up to. And as Black businesses, we really need to ensure that we are working and striving to be our best. lot of the complaints that we've encountered with dealing with Black businesses as options. Unfortunately, many of those situations were truthful as far as attitudes, business hours. Mr. June of June's QDL is open 7 days a week. He makes protesting and boycotting difficult because he's open 7 days a week. Even on Sunday, he's open. But, you know, we're dealing with Black-owned businesses. They don't open on Monday. It makes it very difficult. You know, we should adjust our time. If we are in war and business is warfare, then we have to adjust our time to win the battle. And if we don't adjust our time and to win the battle, then we will always be losing. And so we as a Black community, particularly our business, we have to strive to be our best because we are the best, and we have to believe that. So that's what we should, that's what I want to contribute to the effort to improve our community. I think as business owners, we need to ensure that we are giving our best at all times.
Well, that was powerful.
I have
Go ahead.
one thing to say. I think that our focus should also be on the children. We have to set a strong example of what it means. Like, you know, Brother Minister Muhammad just said, like being business owners, but then also we have to set an example for showing them what it means to rise up and push back against an oppressive system. And so it's easier, you know, to teach children than it is to repair broken men. So I want to make sure that we make sure that the youth are also being centered in the conversation as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, the youth, the family, the business owners, we all are responsible for that. So at the end of the day, one thing I want all of us to take away is that we have to be uncomfortable. We've been too many years comfortable with bad treatment, too many years comfortable with violence, too many years comfortable with exploitation. And I know it sounds unreasonable what I'm saying for some ears to conceive it, but we have been too many years comfortable with it. We have to get uncomfortable with it. We have to say this is no longer okay. You cannot beat the women in Apple Nail Salon. You cannot punch the woman in the face in Tulsa, Oklahoma. You cannot do this. We have to be uncomfortable with the treatment, the exploitation, and the violence we have been experiencing from the outside world and within our own families. We got to get uncomfortable because we are at war. And war is never comfortable. It's never comfortable. So I thank all of our listeners today. Make sure you guys hit the like button, the subscribe button here on Fly Nubian Queen TV on YouTube. Go over to our Facebook channel as well, flynubianqueen.com on Facebook, and like and follow us there too. You can follow each and every one of us on our social media handles. Each and every one of you guys know how to reach us. I don't know if you know how to reach Brother Muhammad, but why don't we just go around and tell the people how to reach you? Go ahead, Brother Muhammad. We'll start with you.
Yeah, you can get me on, I'm not real, as far as a lot of social venues, but you can find me on Facebook at Alvin James Muhammad. On
Alvin James Muhammad on Facebook. Right. And Jade, where can people find you?
Oh, okay. You can find me on Facebook at Jay Arundel. You can find me on Instagram at Lioness Crowned. And also you can find me on flynubianqueen.com on the Facebook page for some broadcasts as well as a new contributor.
And Vicky? You can find Vicky on Fly Nubian Queen, and you can find her on Facebook. Thank you, brothers and sisters. Make sure you go ahead and like and follow us here on Fly Nubian Queen TV. We thank you all for your participation. We see you guys on the chat line, and the chats are going too fast for me to even respond to everybody, but we do appreciate you logging in, all 343 of you guys. Y'all some awesome people. Love you all. Support Black businesses. Keep your families intact. Work through all that bullshit. Work through it all and stay in your goddamn families, right? And let's fight this war together. I love you all, and I'll speak to you all soon.
Peace.